Okay, good morning, class. These are going to be your tests. We have 120 Q&A number 1, Officer Henry, Route 17, Willow Road, Curtis, Norman, Moore, and Normans. And it's called Automobile Accident, and it starts in the middle. 5 minutes, test number 120, number 1. Officer Henry, can you tell us what time on September 19 you learned of the accident on Route 17 and Willow Road?
It was approximately 2:10 a.m.
About what time did you get to the scene of the accident?
At approximately 2:15.
Can you tell us where you saw the Curtis vehicle? Where was it located on the roadway?
It was on the south shoulder of the highway.
Would that be the shoulder closest to the southbound lane of traffic?
Yes, sir.
In which direction was the car facing?
It was facing west into the yard of the Norman residence.
How far from the intersection would that be?
Approximately 400 feet.
So that the car was 400 feet south of Willow Road when you got to the scene of the accident. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us if there were any marks on the roadway?
I don't remember any.
When you got there, was anyone else there besides the people who were involved in the accident?
There had been, yes.
Were there any other residences along the south shoulder of Route 17?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us who lived in the house closest to the corner on the south shoulder of Route 17?
Yes, the Moore family.
And which house is next to the Moore house?
The Norman residence. You are speaking south of the point of impact?
Yes.
That would be the Norman residence.
So there were actually 2 houses south of the point of impact. Is that right?
That's right.
Was the driveway at the northern end of the Norman property or at the southern end or in the middle of it?
In the middle.
About how much frontage does the Moore family have on Route 17?
Approximately 75 to 100 feet.
Approximately how much frontage do the Normans have?
About the same.
So that when you say the Curtis car was at the driveway of the Norman residence, that means he had gone past the Moore property and halfway down the Norman property. If the frontage was 75 to 100 feet on each property, that would come to a maximum of 150 feet. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So it wasn't 400 feet down the road. It was something less than that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, did you make notes at the scene of the accident?
Yes, I did.
Is it your practice to make notes at the scene of an accident?
Yes, sir.
When you take a statement from somebody, do you generally make notes with respect to that statement?
Sometimes I do.
Sometimes you do, and sometimes you do not.
Will you state your question again?
When you take a statement from a person who has been involved in an accident or a witness to an accident, do you make notes with respect to the statement?
Yes, sir.
Then do you write a statement?
Yes, sir.
Do you submit it to that person for his signature?
I attempt to get his signature. Yes, sir.
That is your practice.
Yes, sir.
Now, Officer Henry, you said that you prepared an official report in connection with your police duties. Is that right?
That's right.
I think you told us what time it was prepared. Did you say it was 4:30 the afternoon of September 19?
Yes, sir.
That would have been more than 14 hours after the accident had occurred. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Where were you when you prepared the accident report?
I was at police.
And then you have number 2120 Q&A, Karen, Marilyn, Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, and Sandy. This is Q&A. Number 2, 120 starts in the middle for 5 minutes. Karen, how old are you?
I am 16.
Do you go to school?
Yes, I am in high school.
Will you tell us where you were on June 18?
I was at a summer camp with Marilyn and some other girls.
What time did you arrive at that camp?
I think it was about noon.
Was there a group of girls arriving at the same time?
Yes, we all came together. We were on the same bus.
Do you remember the first time you met Marilyn?
Yes, we were assigned to a group of 10 girls with a counselor.
That was the first time you met Marilyn. Is that correct?
That's correct.
About how old was Marilyn?
She was 14.
Were all the girls in your group assigned rooms in the same cottage?
Yes, we were.
I show you Exhibit 1 and ask you whether that is a photograph of your cottage and the beach.
Yes, it is.
I show you Exhibit 2 and ask you whether there is a ladder from the water to the platform in this photograph.
I don't see the ladder, but I know where it should be.
What was the cottage you were assigned to known as?
It was known as the casino.
How many feet did the casino extend over the water at, say, high tide?
I would say about 25 feet.
Is there a walk beside the casino jutting out into the water?
Yes, there is.
Was there anything beyond the walk extending into the water?
There were rocks there.
This accident happened about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, didn't it?
Yes.
About when before that did the group meet?
It was about 2 o'clock, right after lunch.
Was there a counselor present at that time?
No, she came in later on.
Will you tell us what she said?
She asked us what we would like to do. 4 of the girls said they would like to go swimming. The rest of us wanted to write letters.
Was Marilyn one of the girls who wanted to go swimming?
Yes, she was.
Immediately before the accident, where were you?
I was writing letters in the casino.
Was there anybody with you?
Yes, Sandy was with me.
Karen, just how were you writing?
I was curled up in a chair.
From the position you described, could you look out the window?
Yes,
There was an accident, was there not?
yes.
What did you see immediately before the accident? Did you see anybody in the water?
Yes, there were a few girls in the water.
Was Marilyn one of them?
Yes,
What did you see her do, not at the time of the accident, but before?
she was motioning to me to watch her, so I did.
She asked you to watch her dive. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember what she said?
She just called to me to watch her. I was in the middle of my letter, so I just looked out. Then, before I knew it, everybody was screaming.
When you looked out, she was not on the platform, was she?
No, she wasn't.
You say everybody was screaming. Is that right?
Yes.
Were these girls in the water or on the platform? Do you know?
The girls who were screaming were on the platform.
Were they campers or counselors?
They were campers. There were no counselors at all on the platform.
What did you do when you heard the screams?
I ran over to the other window and I saw Marilyn floating.
With respect to the window that you had, and we'll get ready for your 100s. So clear your memories. And we've got on your 100 Q&A number 1, Mr. Hart, Officer Shannon, Hilltop Liquor Store, Hilltop Police Station, Salem Police Station. Okay? And let me just turn that camera a little bit. Let me see. Oh, yeah, just a little bit. Okay. So this is going to be 100 Q&A number 1 for 5 minutes, you all, and it starts in the middle. Mr. Hart, did you at any time during this process of arrest punch Officer Shannon?
No, sir.
Did you at any time kick Officer Shannon?
No, sir.
When you were in the Hilltop Liquor Store, did you at any time kick anybody?
No, I didn't.
Did you at any time punch anybody?
I defended myself.
When was that?
When the people in the store were hitting me.
At any other time, did you punch anybody?
No, sir.
Did you bite anybody?
No, sir.
What happened after you were taken out of the Hilltop Police Station?
I was put in the back seat of the squad car.
Who put you in the back seat of the squad car?
Officer Shannon.
Do you know whose squad car it was?
Officer Shannon drove it.
Were you still handcuffed when you were put in the back seat of the squad car?
Yes, I was.
How were you handcuffed?
With my hands behind my back.
Was anybody put in the back seat of the car with you?
No, sir.
Was anybody sitting in the front seat of the car at that time?
I don't think so.
Did anything unusual happen after you were put in the squad car?
Officer Shannon got in the back seat with me and punched me in the eye a couple of times.
Did he say anything to you at that time?
I don't remember.
Had you punched Officer Shannon before?
No, sir.
Had you kicked Officer Shannon?
No, sir.
Had you done anything to Officer Shannon?
No, sir.
Now, what happened next?
We went to the Salem Police Station.
Who went to the Salem Police Station?
Officer Shannon, myself, and another officer. I don't remember who he was. I have never identified him.
Did anything unusual happen when you got to the Salem Police Station?
I was continually being shoved around and hit.
Was this after you left the car at the Salem police station?
Yes, sir.
Who was shoving you around and hitting you?
Officer Shannon.
Where were you taken when you got to the Salem police station?
There was a room where they filled out a report and I signed it.
Who was present in this room?
Officer Shannon and another officer.
Were you charged with a crime at this time?
Yes, sir.
Were you charged with more than one crime?
Yes, sir.
What crimes?
Battery and disorderly conduct.
Were you charged with any other crimes?
No, I wasn't.
During the time that you were in this room, did anything unusual happen?
Yes,
What was that?
I was forced to the floor on my knees and on my face.
Were you forced to the floor by another person?
Yes, sir.
Who was that?
I don't remember.
What happened after that?
I was frisked and I had my shirt torn off my back.
Who was present in the room at that time?
Officer Shannon and one other officer.
Anybody else?
Not that I can remember.
Now, following this incident, and so your 100 Q&A follows this. Number 2, you have Earl Wagner, Mr. Wagner, Officer Shannon, Officer Summers, Officer Wells, and Earl. And it continues, okay? This is going to be 100 Q&A. Number 2 starts in the middle for 5 minutes. In the booking room, where were you taken?
To the cell.
What were you wearing at this time?
My pants.
Were you wearing anything on top?
No, sir. My shirt had been torn off.
You say your shirt was completely off?
Yes, sir.
Was Earl Wagner in the lockup when you were put in the cell?
No, sir.
Who tore your shirt off?
I can't be sure.
Now, did you see Mr. Wagner being brought into the lockup at a later time?
Yes, sir.
When was that?
I was only in the cell for a couple of minutes when they brought him in.
Now, where was Mr. Wagner placed when he was brought into the lockup?
Officer Shannon brought him in and he laid down on the bench.
How far away was the bench from the cell where you were?
About 8 feet.
Did you have any conversation with Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Was anybody else present?
No.
Did anything unusual happen after Mr. Wagner was brought into the lockup?
Mr. Wagner requested to go to the hospital. He said he was in pain.
What happened after that?
Officer Shannon came in.
What, if anything, did Officer Shannon say when he entered the lockup?
He told Mr. Wagner he would give him something to go to the hospital about. Then he picked him up and dragged him across the room and threw him into the cell.
Which cell was that?
The second cell.
Were you able to see from your cell into the second cell?
No, sir.
Do you remember how long Mr. Wagner was in that cell?
It was less than a minute.
What caused him to leave, if you know?
I don't really know, except they were fighting on the floor in front of my cell.
What happened after that?
Then two other officers came in,
Who were they?
Officer Summers and Officer Wells.
What happened next?
They started to kick Earl and hit him with blackjacks.
Did you observe Earl at this time?
Yes, sir.
Where was he?
He was laying on the floor, curled up in a ball.
Where was this in relation to your cell?
Just a few feet away.
Was it in full view of your cell?
Yes, sir.
Did you see any weapons present?
Yes, sir.
What were they?
I positively saw one blackjack, and it was hitting Earl on the head.
Approximately how long did this go on, if you recall?
The whole thing lasted about 2.5 minutes.
Is that an estimate?
Yes, sir.
Were you wearing a watch at that time?
No, sir.
Then what happened?
They carried Earl into the cell, and that was it. Then they left.
So then what happened after that?
I don't remember.
You don't remember what else took place?
No, sir. At times, my mind goes blank as to what happened that day. It all happened so quickly, but I promise you that if I can remember.
Okay, well, so those are your tests. They're very good. Type them up, see how you did, and we'll have finals next week. Have a great day.
What do you put in your queso to keep it creamy from